I have a problem. In my game, you defend your fortress from Joe Biden. But currently, Joe Biden can just jump over your walls and get into your fortress immediately and destroy all of your stuff, which is a problem. And last week, I tried to fix this problem by implementing my own sort of pathfinding system so that he would have to go around your walls. But the pathfinding is really stupid, and stopping Joe Biden is super easy. You just have to place a couple walls together, and he gets trapped, which is maybe how Biden would actually react in that situation, but I don't necessarily want that as a game mechanic. So I was sitting in my room drawing out these like schematics for a pathfinding system and feeling really smart about myself. And then I realized that I was just really stupid and did not know how to do this. So I Googled it. And apparently there's this whole thing called A-star pathfinding, where it's based around this system where you have points all over your map. These points all have connections to each other. Basically, as I understand it, each point has a G score based on how far it is from the pathfinding object, and an H score based on how far it is from the goal. And then you do some calculations, basically H score plus G score, and that is the F score. And then you find the point that has the lowest F score, and that's like the best path to take. I followed this tutorial online and I went through all of this and I sort of understood it, and I'm still kind of working through that and like wrapping my brain around it, but I actually did get it working. Or at least I was able to get Biden to go from one point to another point.
Hey vlog.
Yo vlog, this is my roommate Keller. With a little bit more tweaking, I was able to get him to only consider points that were not on walls. So now Biden is like a total tactical genius and can solve mazes instantly and track me down like an ICE officer. And that's a joke, but I feel like that's a good time to mention that I'm not necessarily supportive of Trump and some of the questionable decisions he's making recently. And I feel like I haven't made that completely clear. And I was kind of planning on making that more clear with some of my game mechanics, but I'm not a good programmer and I don't know how to do some of those game mechanics yet. So it kind of looks like I'm just like making a game where you play as Trump. Someone actually disliked my last video, and I think that might be why. And it doesn't help that I go to Elon University, which has no connection to Elon Musk, but nobody knows that. Anyway, Biden can navigate around walls now. And honestly, I just messed around with this for a while. It was actually really so satisfying to just watch him like solve mazes and stuff and watch my code work, and I did not expect it to work at all. It was kind of amazing. But the pathfinding only updates once Joe Biden reaches his destination, which means if you've moved within that time period, then it is kind of pointless. So I made it so that every time Joe Biden reaches the next point, he completely deletes his path and regenerates a new one so that it's always making sure it's the right path. And I know this is not the most efficient way of doing this. It would probably be better to only update his path whenever he detects that the target has moved. But I feel like I don't want to open that whole can of worms. So I'm doing it this way. Anyway, Joe's pathfinding is pretty much done now, and I'm pretty happy with it. I will say it's impossible for him to get to Trump if he's surrounded by walls. So Joe's brain just kind of fries and he like flies up into the air. So I feel like I should probably fix that at some point, but that's for another day. For now, I want to have a way to fight back against Biden. And who better to shoot down Joe Biden than my doppelganger himself, JD Vance. Seriously though, I don't know why people keep on telling me I look like JD Vance. My grandma actually called me as soon as he got announced as Trump's running mate and told me that I remind her of him. And I'm pretty sure she meant that as a compliment, but I didn't take it that way. But anyway, I added Vance in as like basically just a turret that shoots Biden whenever he gets within a certain distance. And he doesn't have any art yet because I wanted to make sure that I could actually code this before like making a bunch of pixel art for him. And the shooting is not the most interesting looking thing in the world, but I'll handle that later. But adding Vance meant that I had to add in a health and a death system for Biden, which took a little bit of time. And then I realized that Biden isn't even a prefab in this game, which basically means that I can't just spawn in a new Biden whenever I want, which is probably what I want to do with the game. So I basically spent like an entire day just fixing a bunch of object references and stuff so that Biden can spawn in whenever he wants. Realistically, you probably couldn't spawn in a ton of him because my code is so unoptimized, but that's why I went for the pixel art aesthetic, and definitely not because my art skills are trash. The last thing I did with this week was I fixed some bugs with my walls. So right now the collider for the wall doesn't change whenever the sprite changes, which doesn't look good. So I created a bunch of children objects on each wall that have their own colliders. And every time the sprite changes, I then trigger on or off that child's collider. Also, Trump does this annoying jittering thing whenever he walks into a wall, which I Googled around, and it turns out that's just because I was using all of my physics updates within the update void instead of the fixed update void, which apparently is bad practice. So I fixed that, and then that was good. And lastly, whenever a wall is placed, if Trump or Biden is next to the wall, it just like freaks out and causes a bunch of error messages because I was using raycast to detect nearby walls. So I spent like so much time trying to fix this using like layer masks, but I just really could not wrap my head around it. So I ended up changing it so that when the wall is placed, it finds every wall within the scene, and then if one of those walls' position is right next to it, then it updates its sprite accordingly. So that's everything I got done in another week of working on Crude in Office. I actually passed my 30-hour mark of working within Unity this week, which I was pretty proud of. So be sure to wishlist Crude in Office on Steam today. That is a joke, but if you want to look in my description, I do have my GitHub linked, and that should be working now. So if you really want to play that badly, I don't know why you would, but take a look at that. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe, hit those push notifications, leave a comment, and I will see you guys next week.